Okay, good morning, friends. Take two. So I did this at 10 a.m. as I had said I was going to, and there was no sound. So we're going to try this again. We're going to get to hopefully even do it better this time. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is really the connection between the way that God designed our brains to work and some of the things that Jesus talks about in his gospel, and even Paul tells us about it as well in 2 Corinthians. So first is the verse from Matthew 7, and this is the Passion Translation. This is verses 1 and 2, and it says, "Refuse to be a critic full of bias towards others, and judgment will not be passed on you. For you will be judged by the same standard that you've used to judge others. The measurement you use on them will be used on you." And bias has a couple different definitions. The noun version of bias is a particular tendency, trend, inclination, feeling, or opinion, especially one that is preconceived or unreasoned. And the verb form is to cause, to hold, or exhibit a particular bias, to influence, especially unfairly. And there's actually a system in our brain called the reticular activating system that really filters out things that don't align with our beliefs and our views. And that's not even, I'm not talking about whether you believe in Jesus or not or things like that, but that too. But any viewpoint that you hold, including the views that you have shaped and held since you were a child. Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining. Let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up or something. And anyway, so Jesus is talking about this, a different version of these same verses in Matthew says, "Don't judge so that you won't be judged. You'll receive the same judgment you give. Whatever you deal out will be dealt to you." And then in verse 5, "You deceive yourself. First, take the log out of your eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the splinter out of your brother's or sister's eye." And that's really what I kind of want to talk about, that there is a log in all of our eyes that really inhibits what we see and what we don't, especially if we leave it unchecked. So I love the definition of the reticular activating system that I found on proactsafety.com, which is, they were talking about it from a safety perspective, the things that you see as safe or unsafe, or how much attention you pay to your surroundings. But they say that the portion of the brain that controls information filtering is called the reticular activating system, RAS. The RAS is an extremely critical system within the brain because it bridges the lower part, the automatic functions like breathing, and upper part, where thoughts occur, of your brain. It is said to be the gateway between external stimuli and cognition. The reticular activating system is defined as the part of the reticular formation in the brainstem that plays a central role in bodily and behavioral alertness. Its ascending connections affect the function of the cerebral cortex, and its descending connections affect bodily posture and reflex mechanisms. Simply put, the RAS is your awareness and arousal mechanism and the filter that controls what we experience throughout life. And that's what I'm talking about today, and really what Jesus is talking about as well, that we all have a filter through which everything passes through, and that impacts the way that we show up in any given situation. I think, I can think of many times where I have thought, oh, she thinks this about me, or he thinks I'm that. And so I've, shown up and been like, well, I don't care what they think. I'm just going to do the least amount possible. And then I prove them right. Or I prove what I think they're thinking right. And that's the problem, that we all view things from our viewpoint, from our history, from the circumstances that we've gone through as we've grown up, from things that happened when we were children, and we've reacted in ways that kept us safe as children, but might not serve us any longer. And we all operate on those types of biases, and we're not generally aware of them. And that's something that we really have a choice, that we can choose to not operate under our biases, that we can choose to start seeing the logs that are in our own eyes and remove them so that we can see clearly how others may or may not be viewing the situation. In Luke's gospel, Jesus talks about it again in chapter 6, verses 37 and 38. Jesus says, don't judge and you won't be judged. Don't condemn and you won't be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and it will be given to you. A good portion, packed down, firmly shaken, and overflowing, will fall into your lap. The portion you give will determine the portion you receive in return. And I've heard that verse 38 preached about many times in regards to financial issues. And I definitely think that it's true in that realm as it is in any other, that what you give, what you sow into the world, you will receive. If you are generous with others financially, you will receive just gifts and just goodwill in generous measure. God is a God of abundance, and that applies in every facet of life, but it also applies in our relationships. If we go in with an attitude of judgment into any situation, and if we assume that someone else is judging us a certain way, it impacts the way that we're showing up in that situation. It impacts the way that we think. It impacts the way that we react. And, if we go in with an attitude of generosity, of really just assuming the best about people, about what they're thinking about us, even if they have a negative reaction, stopping to pause and think, maybe they had a bad day, or maybe they've been going through a really difficult circumstance, as right now we all are. And we really have an opportunity to choose the way that we show up and the way that we view every circumstance in our lives. Paul talks about this in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6, and he says, "What I mean is this, the one who sows a small number of seeds will also reap a small crop, and the one who sows a generous amount of seeds will also reap a generous crop." So we have the opportunity to either sow a very small amount of seeds in the way that we react with kindness, that we react with love and with grace towards ourselves, towards others, or we have the opportunity to be very generous with grace, be very generous with love, be very generous with forgiveness, and just assuming the best about people. And whichever we decide is what we're going to receive back. So if we go in with the assumption that, people are looking at us a certain way, we're going to see things that reinforce that. The reticular activating system in our brain just will filter out anything that does not line up with what we already believe to be true. But the opposite is true as well. We can choose to not go in and say, this person's judging me this way, or that person thinks, that about me. We can just go in and assume, what, everybody's hoping for the best for me. People love me. And yeah, there are going to be maybe some negative people out there. But, for the most part, really people are rooting for me. Really people are, wanting to just encourage each other. And either way we decide, we're going to find things to reinforce our belief. Our belief, really dictates what that reticular activating system allows our minds to see, to absorb. And that's really what Jesus is talking about here. He's talking about, he says, "For you'll be judged by the same standard that you've used to judge others. The measurement you use on them will be used on you." And we have the opportunity to choose what that measure is. We have the opportunity to choose to tell the reticular activating system in our minds, I believe this, and so I'm going to operate this way. And we're going to see things that return to us based on the beliefs that we've already pre-programmed. So I hope this version of the video worked this time. I hope you could hear what I was saying. If not, maybe we'll try again later. But also just one last thing, I am looking for some people to help me do some market research as I step into really rolling out this program. And I really want to make sure that I am serving people where the need is, where people are, where people need to to learn, about mindset and how that relates to the Bible and everything that Jesus has talked to us about. So if you are interested in helping me with this market research, I have free calls that I'm doing, and the link is below in my profile. You can just sign up for a time on my calendar for those free calls. So I would really appreciate if you would help me out that way. So, all right, thanks guys. I hope this worked, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye.